your legacy essentially lives on through your kids. And so what I think I'm most likely to be remembered for is actually what Zach and Ty create and become and the impact they make. Hey, how you doing? Nick James here. What a phenomenal time to be live. Welcome to episode 3 of Open and Real Q&A. Javala, what have we got today, questions-wise?
So today the first one is from Amanda, and it's, what steps do you go through to have a sellout event?
Okay, Amanda, surname?
No surname.
No surname, the mysterious Amanda. So what steps do you go through to achieve a sold out event? Great question, and very timely, since we are just about, as we're recording this, to sell out the next Expert Empires in September. So I think we're down to like the last 50 or so tickets. So by the time this episode actually goes live, we might well be sold out. So what are the steps we've taken to sell out this event? Some of the things we've done are the same as what we would ordinarily do, what we normally do when it comes to marketing, promoting an event. But there's been a few differences that I'm happy to share. The first thing I think that's been the biggest factor, I was actually sharing this with our head of marketing this morning. The first thing that I think has been the biggest factor with us selling out or about to sell out this event in record time, we've never sold out an event this quickly before. The first factor is, frankly, that the last event was so good. And so, and by the way, that's not just my opinion. All of our surveying, all of our data suggests that client satisfaction was at an all-time high at the last event, which meant that a large percentage of the people that attended the last event purchased tickets for the next one at that event. So we were already, probably 25% sold, like as soon as we finished the last event in April. Then I think the next kind of 25% of tickets were sold to our existing client base, members of our mastermind, our academy, people like that. So we just sent out texts and emails and gave them a call and said, hey, giving you first chance to grab a ticket before they go on general sale. And we put them out at a discounted rate as a thank you to those clients. Then I guess the remainder have all come from the launch, the kind of normal marketing, but it's probably worth mentioning that this event was 50% sold out before we did any marketing per se. So then the key factors as far as marketing and selling tickets to the public. First of all, we always pre-launch tickets. So we spend about 3 to 4 weeks running ads, sending emails out to our database, interviewing speakers, publishing content on social, etc., etc. We spend 3 or 4 weeks doing that where tickets aren't on sale, but we'll just say, hey, if you're interested in coming to this event, get your name on the priority list, and then when tickets are available, we'll send you all the details and the links to purchase, etc., etc. Also, if you're really keen to attend the event, you can reserve a ticket. So there's an option for people to actually pre-register and reserve a ticket in a certain section, general, VIP, elite, or access all areas. So the more people we get to do those two things, 1, get on the priority list, and 2, reserve a ticket, clearly the more tickets we're going to sell. And I think, Jav, I'm right in saying that we had best part of 2,000 people, just under 2,000 people get on the priority list and about 500 reserved tickets. So what that meant was when we went on sale to those groups of people, we sold, a couple of hundred straight out the gate, hence why, as we sit here today, we've only got 50 odd tickets left. We're actually slightly oversubscribed, but we know, because we've been running these events for years now, we know the data in terms of how many people are likely to cancel or not be able to make it at the last minute. So we can oversell slightly, but not loads, just in case I'm wrong and everyone turns up. So hopefully, Amanda, that gives you a bit of an overview as to how we do it. Couple of things I suppose that are important is whenever you're marketing or selling anything, whether it's an event ticket or something else, you always want to create a feeling of urgency or give people reasons why doing it now is better than doing it later. So when we launched tickets, the first 100 tickets, I think, got a free upgrade. So if you purchased a VIP, you got an elite ticket. If you purchased an elite, you got an Access All Areas ticket, etc., etc. So there was an incentive to people to do it there and then and be in the first 100. We also have, in fact, as we're recording this, I believe today, we have an increase in price. So again, it gives people another deadline, another reason to, if they're on the fence, if they're thinking about it, they're not 100% sure, then here's a reason why it'd be a good idea to make the decision now rather than dither and delay and procrastinate. Because look, we do. Human beings, I'm the same. You know, I've done this before where I've been thinking about purchasing a product or a service or a ticket for an event, and then I haven't because frankly, there was no reason for me to do so there and then. I could have just waited, so I did. So yeah, those are a few things, Amanda, that we did. Hopefully that's helpful to sell out our Expert Empires event in September, featuring Stephen Bartlett and Marie Forleo. There you go, little commercial. Not that we need it because we're already pretty much sold out, but if you're watching this or listening to this and you haven't yet got your ticket, I don't know where they would find the information. Go to the main website, expertempires.com. There's probably a button there somewhere to direct you. And if there are any tickets left, then you should get one.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the description as well.
Perfect. There is a link in the description on the podcast and I'm guessing on the YouTube channel as well.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Jav. Next up.
Okay. The next two are from Nick Feeney.
Yes, Nick.
So what is your morning routine and do you have an evening routine?
Yeah, what's my morning routine? Do I have an evening routine? More so mornings. So yeah, morning routine's pretty locked in. So get up at 6:15, immediately get dressed to go to the gym, head downstairs, eat, and make sure I've drank plenty of water, head to the gym, normally get in the gym for about 7 o'clock, spend an hour till 8, missed out a couple of things. In the car on the way to the gym, I'm normally listening to podcasts, audiobooks, that kind of thing at the moment. Obviously with Stephen Bartlett headlining Expert Empires, I'm listening to The Diary of a CEO, consuming a lot of his content. So use that time effectively. Then train for an hour, sometimes weights, sometimes more conditioning type stuff. And then again, on the way back home from the gym, listen to content, podcasts, audiobooks, etc. Get ready, shower, dressed, eat again. So making sure that I'm fueling my body and making sure I'm drinking plenty of water. Normally get to the office and sit at this very desk at around about 9:30. So it's kind of like a 3-hour process. And that's 3 hours every day. There's a couple of little things in there that I haven't mentioned. So, you know, me and my wife, while I'm eating my breakfast, we have a bit of time together, which is nice. And after I get back from the gym, before I have to get ready, I maybe have a little bit of time with my youngest, Ty, before he goes to school. Unfortunately, Zach, my oldest, he has to go and get to school earlier. So he normally leaves while I'm out, while I'm at the gym. So a bit of family time. But mostly it's focused on getting myself mentally, physically, emotionally ready to be as productive, as effective as possible each day. Evening routines, less so. I'd say I do kind of have a bit of a routine in the evening, but it's less structured, less rigid, definitely a little bit more fluid. And yeah, I'm now giving you real insight into like what I'm all about and what my life's like. So we normally eat quite late, actually. One of the things I started doing, and I started doing this in 2020, and I know it was in 2020 because in 2020, I might have mentioned this before on the podcast or here on the YouTube channel, I gave up drinking alcohol for the whole year. And not every day, but often my way of relaxing, winding down, switching off at the end of the day would be to have a glass of wine with dinner. That'd be kind of, not every day, but, you know, probably 2-3 days a week would be quite normal. Or, you know, I'd go for a beer with a couple of guys from the office or whatever after work. And I decided to stop doing that. So what I started doing, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this, I don't really know why. I started having baths. So like, Jav's laughing now. No, I'm serious. I'm like, look, I'm nearly 40, so this is what happens when you get old. Jav, you're like a youngster. How old are you?
25.
25, makes me sick. So yeah, started having baths, and I tell you what, like, it's so relaxing, and so even now, even when weather's really nice at the moment, even though it's hot and sunny, like really great way to relax, and then then I can have dinner, and me and Nat normally just once the kids have gone to bed, normally just watch a Netflix show, or at the moment we're watching This Is Us on Amazon Prime. What a show, absolutely brilliant. So we've always got something. A show of some sort on the go that we watch together, and I suppose that just gives us a little bit of routine. I got really disciplined as far as evening routines go, really disciplined around bedtime. So like, I'm now strict 10:15, 10:30, because I started tracking my sleep and my heart rate and all this stuff on one of these things called a Whoop strap. And as I always say, whatever you measure improves, because as soon as you start paying attention to data and numbers, it starts to demonstrate and show you the impact your actions or lack of action have on your results. So the Whoop strap was recommended to me actually by some clients of ours that are sponsored by Whoop. And I got one, and I started noticing my sleep patterns based on what time I was getting to bed. And as soon as it goes beyond 10:30, it has a massive negative impact on my sleep. So yeah, I'm normally in bed by 10:30 at the latest, up at 6:15. So yeah, I'm getting a solid 7.5 hours per night, pretty much every night. And that makes a big difference to my energy, and therefore my performance in the gym, my performance, day to day as well. So yeah, good question, Nick. That's kind of morning and evening. Evening's less structured. But still, I think there's a few things there that I do that are important for me. And, I'm not saying everyone has to do these things. It's up to you, whatever floats your boat, really. There you go.
The next one from Nick is, what do you want to be remembered for?
What do I want to be remembered for? I think the answer to this question has probably changed over the last 10, 12 years. I think when you have kids, it does change, or it did for me anyway. Because like before that, it would have been all around, like, I want to be remembered for building an amazing business, for making a big impact through our events and through our masterminds and projects like, the podcast. Not that the podcast existed 10, 12 years ago, but you get the point. Things that I've created that make a difference. And it still is that. But I think once you have kids, ultimately, as much as, and please take this the right way, as much as I love the listeners of our podcast and our YouTube viewers, and as much as I love our mastermind members and our event attendees and our team, I love you all. And I certainly, wouldn't have built what I've built and have the life that I have without all of those people. Ultimately, what's most important in terms of what I'm remembered for, I think as parents, if you've got kids or you are blessed enough to have kids in the future, your legacy essentially lives on through your kids. And so for me, what I think I'm most likely to be remembered for is actually what Zach and Ty create and become, and the impact they make. And of course, generations onto generations. I think I'm always really mindful that I believe that my kids, our kids, have benefited from all of our positive traits, and they've also suffered from all of my many and Nat's few negative traits. And those things will be passed down from generation to generation in the same way that they were from my parents and grandparents and so on. So yeah, I think what you'll be remembered for directly might be what you did, but actually I think for myself, for anyone who's a parent, what your real legacy is who your kids and their kids become. And I don't think we should ever underestimate the impact we have on them, our parents had on us, I spent a lot of time as a kid with my grandparents, certainly a lot less time with my dad. I'd say somewhere in the middle, reasonable amount of time with my mum. And, I can safely say that all of my positive traits are as a direct result of those people, those 4 people. And all of my negative traits are a direct result of those 4 people. And so, I think the same is true as I look forward into the future as well for my kids and their kids and so on. Deep.
Very deep.
Deep answer.
Yeah.
Great question though. Thanks Nick. Great question. Really got me thinking.
Right, the next one is from Claire Morton.
Great, Claire. What you got?
What's the best and worst sales experience you've ever had?
Okay. What is the best and worst sales experience I've ever had? By the way, are my feet in the shot on this video?
No.
Good, because I'm not wearing any shoes. My shoes were like pinching me a little bit, so I took them off. I didn't want anyone to see my stinky bare feet. So it's actually worse than that, as Jav can see. It's not actually bare feet. I'm wearing those little pop socks that my wife wears with high heels, because then they don't show with my little trainers. Anyway, so these are my little trainers that I'm wearing today, you see, and they look better with no socks. Anyway, what is the best and what is the worst sales experience I've ever had? By the way, I'm going to answer this 2 ways. One, what's the best and worst experience I've ever had as a salesperson, but then equally as a customer, as a consumer. Best sales experience I've ever had as a salesperson, if you want to call it that, was actually quite recently. It was at the last Expert Empires event, I think. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was at the Expert Empires Global event, so it was a virtual event. I'd never run a large-scale virtual event before, so I didn't really know what I was doing, what the differences were going to be between selling live in a room versus virtually. And at that event, we didn't have our biggest ever result in terms of sales made, numbers of sales, but we had our biggest ever result at a single event in terms of cash in, which blew my mind because my expectations, to be honest, were relatively low on the basis that we'd never done it before. So that was like the best, it's got to be the best sales experience I've ever had. Worst sales experience I've ever had was one of our Expert Empires events, and I'm not going to say which one, just at the risk of it offending anyone who was there or part of it. But one of our Expert Empires events, let's just say it was one of the bigger events I've ever run. It was one of the biggest budgets I've ever invested in an event. And let's just say that the sales result at that event was not quite what I was hoping for or expecting. And so fortunately, because of the business model we have, we didn't lose money on that event, but let's say we didn't make a lot of money on it either. And a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of risk and a lot of emotion and blood, sweat and tears have gone into that event. And then, for us to not achieve the sales result I was hoping for or expecting was a little bit upsetting, to say the least. Basically, I was in a foul mood for about 2 days, which my family, of course, had to bear the brunt of, and a few of the team at the time. Funnily enough, one of the team is still part of the team, and she actually mentioned this, and we were talking about it a couple of days ago, and she was like, I was like, I know I was a bit grumpy. She was like, yes, I remember. You were foul for a couple of days. Worst and best sales experience as a customer. I've shared this story quite a few times with our clients and when I'm speaking on stage about various different things. Number of years ago now, I'm going to say it was 2013, I'd had a relatively significant financial windfall, and I decided to go and buy a new car. So I went into the Audi dealership, which is about 10-15 minutes from here. I walked in and I went, hey, I'd like to buy an Audi R8, please. And they were so incompetent and bad. Like the first response I got was, yeah, I'm sorry, but the rep that deals with that car isn't around right now, so you'll have to come back. They didn't take my phone number, they didn't take my details. I just walked out. Ridiculous. I went back a couple of days later, same thing happened again. Didn't get my details. I was like, how hard is it to give these people my money? And then finally I got in there, spoke to the guy, But he did such a poor job. I just lost my patience. It's probably my greatest weakness. I'm relatively impatient. I just lost my patience. And as it turned out, a friend of mine around the same time, actually we'd done the deal that gave me the financial windfall was actually a deal that we'd done together. So we were both, I wouldn't say flush, but we thought we were. We were both kind of late 20s, early 30s. So yeah, this is like 10 years ago. And so he just bought I don't mind sharing, he bought a Ferrari. And he was like, oh, you should go and speak to this guy. His name is Andy, Ferrari, Grey Paul Ferrari in Solihull. I was like, I don't really fancy a Ferrari. And he was like, oh yeah, but they've got Maseratis. I got, you should go and see him. He's really good. Literally the opposite experience. So like, it couldn't do enough for me. I didn't feel sold to either. I felt like he just really cared. He was listening, because I said, like, I wasn't in for a specific car. And he was like asking me loads of questions about the R8. He was like, what was it you really liked about it? And, what colour were you looking at? And, what are the things that you weren't so keen on? And why is it that you weren't interested in this car instead? And he got all the information and he went, right, I'm going to send you a few, he got all my details. I'm going to send you a few options as I find them. Let me have a look, see what I can find all over the country. And he'd send stuff to me. He'd call me. Hey, have you got the email? What do you think? And I think probably the process was maybe a month or 6 weeks, but I ended up purchasing a car that was actually more expensive than the one that I had gone to buy in the first place. Great experience. And I didn't feel sold to. I just felt cared for. I felt like I really mattered. And you know what? Even now, I still get emails from them occasionally and I have a look, even though I'm not really in the market for a car. And that guy actually, he did keep in touch, and I went back in a couple of times, didn't buy anything, but I've recommended them, referred them to other people. Just shows you the difference was absolutely huge. So yeah, that was my best and worst sales experience, all kind of rolled into one, because it was from the same period of time.
Nice. Okay, so the last one is from Gary Stewart. And he wants to know, when you're starting off on your own, how do you keep yourself to a schedule when you're only accountable to yourself?
Yeah, good question, Gary. And look, something that I certainly have struggled with in the past, and I think it's human nature, most people do. When you're starting out in business, you're on your own. You don't necessarily have, I think the first mistake people make is they don't actually have a well-structured plan. And by the way, if you listen to this on the Empire Builders podcast, we've got previous episodes which take you through our strategic planning process. So have a look through. That will help with getting a clear plan of what you need to prioritize, what you need to do and when. Once you've got the plan, then Gary's question is appropriate, which is how do you make sure you stay accountable? So there's a few things that I've done over the years to hold myself accountable when I didn't have a team. Like right now, I'm ultimately accountable because there's 25 of us in our team, and I'm the person who's ultimately responsible for driving results. So, everybody in the team, of course, owns their own area that they're responsible for as well. So the best advice I could give you when you're on your own is, first of all, make sure you've got a clearly defined strategic plan with goals and tasks to be completed and dates to have them completed by. And then the second bit of advice I'll give you would be to involve other people. Because with the best will in the world, it is hard to stay disciplined on your own. Like, this is why most people that join a gym never go or don't go consistently, because they don't have accountability. The reason I go to the gym consistently every single day is if I miss a session, A, my trainer is abusing me, sending me messages on WhatsApp. B, I've also got other people at the gym that will wind me up and tease me and say that I'm slacking, and this keeps me accountable, right? So involve other people in your business, find other people like you who are at that point where they don't have accountability, don't have anyone else involved, and you can buddy up and hold each other accountable. Of course, I'm going to say, join a mastermind group or something like that, which is what we provide, but you don't have to. You can absolutely create your own accountability by pairing up, buddying up, partnering up with other people in the same boat. And the best, for me personally, the best form of accountability, which does involve others, but not necessarily buddying up with one person, is public accountability. Whenever I've made a big decision to do something that I knew I needed accountability to follow through on, I've told as many people as possible through social media, through speaking at events, through whatever. When I stopped drinking alcohol in 2020, I made the decision, end of 2019, first thing I did, posted it on Facebook, told all my friends and family, started talking about it on stage, on the podcast, etc. Well, not the podcast, because we only started that in June 2020. Who knows, if I'd not made that decision, maybe we wouldn't have even started the podcast, right? So yeah, I think the public accountability works for me particularly well, because I hate failing so much. I don't want to fail publicly. I don't want people to see me fail or to see me not follow through on something I said I would do. So yeah, I think involving others is probably the answer, Gary. Either through people that you know that you can buddy up with, or just, you know, public declaration of your intentions or what you're committed to doing. That's a wrap. Thanks everyone for listening, for watching, for tuning in. Thanks everyone for submitting questions. If you'd like to put questions forward for the next episode of Open Real Q&A, then send them to jav@expertempires.com. That's Jav, J-A-V, @expertempires.com. Remember, more you connect, more you collect.